What happens when you combine a 3D platformer and an action beat 'em up game? Do you get one of the most revolutionary titles to ever grace this planet? No. You get this. Wario World is a very, very interesting case to me. I never got to play this game as a kid. I had the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest, and they had trailers for future games that were coming out, and I never got to get this game as a kid. For some reason, it's just we could either never find it or I had another game that was more interesting to me. This trailer genuinely had me in a submission hold. I was a huge fan of Mario games growing up, but this game had a different edge to it. And after 20 years of delay, I'd finally decided to play it. So let's take a gander into Wario's only 3D platformer, Wario World in hindsight. The story begins with a tale of this mysterious black gem with corruptive abilities that this avaricious brother Wario just happened to collect on his journey to get all the monies to add to his kingdom. Wario was living exuberantly, sitting at his throne of an 18-bed, 27-bathroom manor, 12-car garage, only 6 cars, and a freaking helicopter. Not a care in the world. Of course, this turns out poorly for him because the black gem sets itself free and completely shatters his seemingly perfect reality, and in turn transforms his castle into 4 different worlds, with the black gem getting some well-needed rest off in a chest to the side. And just like that, you're off. They didn't really give you much to work with here, but honestly, they didn't need to. You're placed in a pretty vibrant, colorful hub world. You see birds flying around, butterflies fluttering, W nature just being W nature. And then you get a nice preview of all the wacky worlds that you're about to explore. You got no choice but to be excited. I'd say visually, this game is aged pretty well. Nothing like crazy, but I feel like most of the GameCube games, at least first-party wise, actually aged decently well. Games like The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker and your Super Mario Sunshines. I'm definitely biased because the GameCube is my favorite game console of all time, so it just holds a different place in my heart than it does for most people. But even when I'm 20 years older and starting to get decrepit, I'm sure I'll be saying the exact same things, and even my kids will be saying the same things, and if they don't, then... So most of the gameplay consists of you running, jumping around levels, beating the dog excrement out of the monsters that Wario's treasures had been transformed into. Each world has 3 stages. At the end of the first 2 stages, you'll face a boss, and then the 3rd stage is the overall boss for the world. And defeating those gives you a piece of the key that will eventually unlock that big chest holding the gem at the end of the game. There are secret underground sections that hold certain gems and treasures. The red gems that you find in these subsections of the game will be the key to accessing the boss at the end of the current stage that you're in, where you'll need a certain amount of them to advance. These underground areas contain puzzles and start off relatively easy, but get increasingly more difficult as you progress through the game. Do you remember the rest?
It was the middle.
It was.
Yes,
okay.
sir. All right.
Right, bro. Come on.
Right.
I hate you. Or these platforming sections where you die a lot. One of them made me actually not want to complete this part of the game. The spriteling at the end, I did not care if you made it out the slums. I love the verticality this game has because it really gives you more depth with how you have to go about collecting hidden treasures. The game is not incredibly long. You could definitely 100% it in about the duration of a work shift, like 8 hours. But it feels like a solid amount of exploration just packed into it. There also will definitely be times where you'll have to go back and collect treasure that you missed the first time. So there's balloons that sit at the very end of the level. You'll have to grab onto the balloons, take you all the way back to the beginning of the level, go way back, and then redo everything again just to miss it, and then have to go on the balloons and then go back again and redo it again just for a piece of treasure for some Game Boy connectivity stuff that you definitely ain't gonna be able to do. But you know, if you're a completionist, then you're gonna do it anyway. Throughout the stages, you'll find these colorful elf-like creatures called spritelings. They're the little jits who together had sealed the black gem originally until Wario had stolen it. When you free them, they give you gameplay tips which actually help you find more secrets, and they can even give you tips to defeating the bosses. Or if you choose not to free them, you get to hear one of the most annoying sounds that you'll ever encounter. Also, depending on how many of them you free will change the ending that you get at the end of the game. So you want to try to get all 40 if you can. It's one of the more important things that you can do. One thing that really makes me enjoy the heck out of this game is the amount of ways that you can dispose of your foes. Wario was always a little bit more rough around the edges, so to speak, than his brother Mario over here. Now, don't get me wrong, Mario's no slouch. We've seen what he's been able to accomplish in the past, but this game really brings to the forefront Wario's true, violent, aggressive nature. You can straight up pound enemies with a 6-piece Caniac combo with an Arnold Palmer, no fries, no toast, 3 slaws until they're laid out. That's not enough? How about we pick them up and we go for a swing, man? We out here trying to break Cesaro's record. This maneuver is also needed to clear certain puzzles in the game, which I found pretty unique. So you don't always have to kill your enemies just to kill them, but killing them is useful because it gets you coins that it's used as currency to buy health for Mr. Garlic Man or bring you back to life wherever you die at. You just have an unnecessary amount of coins, which I suppose is great because you'll never be worried. You can just charge into pretty much any battle without second thought. But back to the beatdowns. You can throw enemies from one side of the screen to the next with a supercharged throw. Ground pound the top of dome pieces to the depths of the earth. Use a shoulder charging attack that actually doubles as a platforming tool, which is pretty cool. And my personal favorite, a jumping, spinning pile driver. Swipe straight from the Undertaker himself. You can drive your foes' heads into oblivion, kicking up all types of ground, dirt, earth, rubble, leaving ash in your wake. There's even a distance meter that shows up after you perform one that shows you how far that you've driven your enemy down from. And to top it off, you could just suck up all the coin residue left over by opening your mouth and performing hyper suction. Bro, what? Now to dial things back a tad, let's lightly cover the soundtrack in the game. It's damn respectable. Each stage has music similar to each other, which I had always found pretty fascinating when games do this. So they kind of took the Green Foreign Horus like main melody from that song and they just themed it to match most of the stages. I personally like the way that the songs are tailored for the stages, like the Horror Manor and Mirror Mansion both have like an eerie essence to them. Spooky Season. Wonky Circus has circus music, I guess. You get it. The most well-orchestrated theme in the game, though, is most definitely when you hit that pause button. That real music, man. Like I said, respectable. But what we do not respect is these goober monsters that this game is infested with. The monster variety isn't too wild in this game. I think there's like 5 different types of just regular monsters that you can fight. They all kind of go up in progressive tiers, but in each world, the enemy is kind of themed to that world, even though they all have like the same attacks as the ones from the worlds prior, like the big enemies, the smaller enemies. I guess one of the cons to that is the combat can get kind of repetitive, but you know, like you do spinning pile driver, like that's cool. But the bosses, however, this is what makes me convinced that the developers of this game were they're smacked. These brothers are some of the most abstract creatures I've seen in video games in recent memory. Even the first boss of Green Fist, who I'd say is pretty mild compared to some of the other bosses, pretty bizarre. They said that just a scary baby in Luigi's Mansion wasn't enough because they added one more to another Mario spinoff. Head is literally on a swivel and its wings aren't even attached, bro. How are these even effective? How do you use those? Some of the bosses are just out-of-pocket creepy, like our pal the Winter Winster. Now, how would you describe this that you're seeing here? Even the official wiki doesn't know how to explain it. It swims through the air with bubbles attached to its back, spits wind at you, and also happens to be the master of Genjutsu. What? To add to the unreal aura of these monsters are some pretty intense roars as well. Legendary Pokemon, they wish they could. Immaculate sound design, to say the least. I want to know the craziest part, though. Not the fact that this dinosaur is wearing a thong, or that my brother Ox Pigman walks around with 8-pack abdominals and the exaggerated swagger of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character, or that this spider is a drill sergeant with combat boots, or that the final boss was disappointing, anticlimactic, whatever other word you want to use, because after playing through that entire game, our reward was an unnecessarily long fight with the weakest design boss in the game, and weak is an understatement. Look at this brother, look at him, look at him. No matter how nightmare ammunition inducing all these bosses are, this brother Wario chooses to have the audacity every time. Throwing brothers every which way with relative ease, putting these monsters on skates, if you will, on ice, if you will, in a blender, if you will, rolling them up in a pack. And why? Because the bag, those bucks, that bread is of the utmost importance. Though Wario World isn't the greatest platformer that you've ever played, it's not a long game that you can spend endless hours replaying to find every single hidden treasure that's in it. It's a game that gave one of the greatest gaming anti-heroes of his time a platform to shine, and show what he was all about. There wasn't a moment where I was playing this game and thinking, wow, I waited 20 years for this. Nah, this junk was kind of hard. It doesn't do too much. It's good for what it is. I'd say this game deserves a playthrough or a replay if you've already played it before. I would give it a solid pile driver out of 10. Thank you for listening to me talk about a video game. I love you all. Godspeed.